You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Cool. My name's Raul, by the way.
Okay. Victor.
Victor. Nice to meet you, Victor. All right. So I'm doing interviews on a topic known as epistemology.
Okay.
You ever heard of it?
No.
It's okay. It deals with knowledge, a study of knowledge.
Okay.
And so I interview people about some knowledge claim you have.
Okay.
And focus the interview on how did you get there? How did you arrive from to your conclusion?
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
And what method did you use?
Okay.
Basically. So you pick the topic, just something you believe in that is foundational to you, that you're fairly certain of. For some people that's God, for some people that's politics or just a religious claim. For some people it's aliens, for some people it's karma.
Okay.
Just something that is a deeply held belief that you're fairly certain of.
I'm fairly certain that there's a higher power.
Okay. Higher power. All right. You want to kind of flesh that out a little bit?
Yeah, so I think the universe is so large and so random, so many various factors had to come for life to get created on this planet. I think it's somewhat orchestrated. I wouldn't necessarily say it's say sort of God in the traditional sense, but not maybe religious is what people say these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said you're not making a religious claim.
Yeah.
It sounds like not
just
a certain God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not God with a capital G, like a Christian God, Islamic, Jewish God, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just more I think there's a higher being that somewhat orchestrated that planet came to where it is today.
So a creator of some kind.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but nothing specific.
Yeah.
Okay. On a scale of 0 to 100, how certain are you? Are you 100% certain? Are you somewhere in between 0 and 100?
Definitely somewhere in between, I'd say 70%.
Okay. All right. So why 70%? What gets you to 70%?
I think, like I said, the randomness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a factor there. I think it's one of those topics that you can never really say 100% without potentially sounding wrong, and which is fine, obviously. But I think that say 100% would be kind of inconsequential. But I think that if you personally believe it, it has to be above 50%. I think you can't just throw it down to 50-50 chance if you personally believe it. I personally do believe it. Don't necessarily think it's 100% chance. So I think it's somewhere in between 50 and 100, and
okay.
have a little bit of doubt of error there, but 70%.
I would be interested in hearing your doubt. What for you? Why not more than 70%? Where are those doubts?
Certainly you can. As I think science advances, you have a lot of claims that are getting disproven. Things we maybe would ascribe down to magical or godly can be explained with science a lot. So I think there is some ways you can describe things that we can say down to science. There's no maybe God behind it, but there could just be some science that explains why all these things happen. So I think there is partial doubt because of historical updates of what we believe to be true of God.
Okay. So it sounds like for you it's possible that there is some scientific explanation that we're not aware of.
Exactly.
And for that reason you stop short of the 100%. You're not prepared to go there.
Yeah.
Okay. What would disprove this claim? How might we if it were false, if this were a belief that were not true, how might we disprove it?
I think some of that would maybe come down to I think more information on the beginning of the universe, probably. We have more solid evidence of the Big Bang and stuff like that would probably help disprove it. I don't know if there's anything specific I can think of, but I think again it's more scientific research in the origins of the universe.
Okay. I'm curious, so you're saying to disprove it would be some kind of scientific evidence?
Yeah.
I'm curious, should we apply that same standard to proving it? If we require scientific evidence to disprove it, should we require scientific evidence to prove it?
This comes as a clash with, I think, like a lot of like personal belief. I think with like a lot of people, it's like you sort of want to believe, right? You want to believe that there's some higher power, that there's not a randomness. So I think arguably there might arguably never be evidence that could necessarily disprove it. Even if you're not sure entirely, I think that no matter what evidence you come up with, people are going to try to say, well, there's still some unknowns, so there could still be potential for this like God or higher being. So, wait, sorry, I lost track of the question.
Okay.
What was it that you wanted to?
I think I asked.
Yeah, do need to apply the same standard.
Yes.
I think we do need to apply the same standard, I guess. I think people, including myself, would enjoy that belief. I don't think quite as much. I think because, again, it's a very fundamental question to who we are and how we behave as people, that we believe in some higher power. So I think it'd be very, like, existentially distressing for people to apply the same standard.
Interesting. You mentioned earlier that this is something that a lot of people want to believe.
Right.
How much do you think that factors into you holding the belief?
I think quite a bit. I think it's very scary for any of us to have a claim as no higher power until we prove it. And I think that's very scary, including for myself. It's almost like living in, ignorance is bliss type of situation. So I think that that's incredibly important for humans throughout time, including now, to sort of, to sort of like want to believe it.
Okay. How can we protect ourselves against this sort of inborn bias that we know we have? Like when we know that there's this belief that we hold, that we know we want to believe to be true, is there a way to kind of guard ourselves against that affecting the conclusion and that tipping the scales?
I think recognition first, sort of recognition that you want to believe it, because if you think of the alternative, that there is sort of a scary possibility that you might not want to think about too much. Beyond that, I think people are going to do with what they want to. So I may know that I don't really want to believe that there's anything else. I think that's, so I might go to this conclusion that, well, because I sort of want to believe it, that I might give it, 70% chance that I do believe it, per se. To say that there's like any way to, I think, comes down to the person, the individual person, because I think even if you raise people to be scientifically focused, like I enjoy science. I was an engineer and math major, so I'm involved with the sciences, but I think too, even if you raise people with a very scientific way of viewing the world, there's still going to be certain beliefs about certain topics, higher powers, aliens, things we can't explain, that people are going to want to just believe in a certain way and may not look at evidence necessarily objectively as they know they should.
Okay. So this is something that it sounds like you're saying we can't explain, and so I'm guessing you feel like God is the best explanation?
Let's say probably the most comforting explanation. That, I think it's scary just to say, well, we don't know. It's all random. We're not really sure. So I think it's the most comforting explanation.
At what point would you say we don't know? At what point would you arrive at the conclusion, not that a higher power exists, not that it doesn't exist, but at what point would you just conclude, we don't know?
I don't know if it'd be even evidence-based. I think it'd be more developmentally based. As a person, maybe you come to the point where you internalize that you're not necessarily afraid of admitting that there might not be a God, saying there is or isn't. I think it's more personal based. I don't think any amount of evidence would change one person's, including mine. I think it'd be through experience, through like maybe accepting the unknown. I think it's more just personal based. So I don't, that's different for everyone. People might never get there. People might be firmly believe in one thing and not. Could be through experience, certainly. So I don't think there's any like objective time I could say that, or objective event or evidence that would get me to say that is just all unknown.
Okay. generally speaking, at what point is I don't know the best answer, the best conclusion?
I think for a lot of things that don't scare us necessarily. I think like higher power, aliens, a lot of things these scare us. I think that like if we were to look at something that's less fundamental to our existence, I would totally be fine with saying, oh, I don't know the answer to that. But I think with things that would kind of shake us to the core of who we are, change our meaning and our importance and our status and all these different like factors that fundamentally build down to the person. I think if you don't look at those, then I'd be more inclined to say I don't know.
It sounds like I don't know for you is kind of scary.
Yes.
Okay.
I think for certain values, as opposed to like I don't know a lot of things. Like
right, yeah.
That's why I'm here. And I'll still won't learn a lot, like know a ton after I leave here. But I think for things built into our character, it's definitely a safer thing to say.
Okay. And maybe last question here. Let's say hypothetically you found out that this belief was not true. What would that do for you personally? Like, psychologically, what if you found that out? What would that do for you? What would it mean for you?
I think that would change how you potentially like how. Give me a second. I think it would change maybe how I view the importance of life potentially. I think I, in some ways, value it more. Say there is, no creator, no anything. I think everything's up to us then. So whatever sort of, I still believe that, but I think it would put more emphasis on that, and I think potentially I would look at other unknown ways of explaining. So I think I'd still probably reject some of the science in all honesty. I'd still, maybe say, okay, well, let's say this higher power isn't real. I would want some other maybe unknown way of comforting myself. I think I would look for something like that.
Okay.
Honesty. Yeah.
Awesome, Victor.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for your thoughts, man. I appreciate
no problem.
it. Have a good one.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.